crimes and cover-ups in American politics, 1776 to 1963, and survival of the richest, Donald Jeffries separates the real from the unreal. Fact from fiction. Fact from fiction. Reverse engineering our manufactured reality. And now, from just outside the swamp-infested Washington, D.C., this is I Protest with Donald Jeffries.
And welcome to I Protest. Donald Jeffries here with you, coming to you, as the man says, from just outside the swamp-infested Washington, D.C., every Friday at this time, 5 to 7 p.m. Eastern. We have a show I want to do, it may seem like promotion, but what the hell? My book, American Memory Hole, How the Court Historians Promote Disinformation, is coming out at the end of this month. It's out there for pre-sale. So we're going to dive into it a little bit. We're not going to give away too many spoilers, but we have Peter Seakosh here with us, and he is...
Hello.
Hello, Peter. And Peter's no stranger to you guys. I'm sure you know who he is, one of the top researchers in the world. And I hope we can have Hall of Fame researcher Chris Graves joining us at some point, either because they had a lot to do with this book. They sent me so much material. Peter just unearthed so much information, especially about it. Basically ended up, most of my research was confined to the JFK assassination pretty much in this book, and maybe the Jefferson stuff. But Peter did a lot of great work, especially on FDR and Joe McCarthy and Woodrow Wilson and lots of other stuff. So, Peter, it's great to have you here. And if you guys hear something, Peter's committed to doing the show, even though he's at work somewhere. So you may hear some rustling in the background as he does his job. How you doing,
yeah,
Peter?
just to the audience out there, I am standing on a ladder painting some walls. So if there's background noise and it gets too unbearable, let me know. I'm going to try and make this work. Hope everyone out there is doing all right.
Well, it's great. Yeah, it should be fine. So let's, we'll go back a little bit on the history of this book. And you were involved at the beginning. You had more of an input into it. You have a vested interest in it because you're responsible for so much of the research eventually. Sure. But it started out, I intended it to be Hidden History 3. And my subtitle was actually The American Memory Hole. And I think it was actually 1776, 1963 was actually the subtitle for my Hidden History 2. But for whatever reason, Skyhorse doesn't like the numbers. I don't get it. To me, I think it would be more attractive because people seem to like series. But whatever reason, they don't like it. So this just became American Memory Hole, How the Court Historians Promote Disinformation. But as Hidden History 3, we threw everything with the kitchen sink in there. It's kind of a combination of Hidden History, my all-time bestseller, which covered from the JFK assassination up to the time of publication, which was the Obama years. No Trump yet. And then the prequel to that was Crimes and Cover-Ups, which was basically Hidden History 2, and that was from the founding of the Republic all the way up to, just before the JFK assassination. So this one combines elements of both because we started the founding of the Republic, and Peter found a horrible atrocity that was committed unfortunately, by a militia group in America. There were some bad things that happened we were the good guys, but sometimes good guys aren't that good, even in that war, which I think was maybe the only justified war. And I'm not even sure, to tell you the truth, Peter. If I had been around at that time, I don't know. I probably would have wanted, but my instinct is so anti-war that I don't know. I might not have joined up with the Sons of Liberty. I'm not sure. It would depend. But so you had a massacre of a peaceful Christian Indian group there, and you have
for the
Thomas
the audience out there. It's called the Naden Hutton Massacre.
Yeah, and it's the details are in the book, but it's shameful. It's absolutely shameful, and it kind of set the precedent for what you would see in the future. I mean, and we have I had more about lots more about the Mexican-American War in this. And again, Peter helped there as well, where some of the things that happened there under James K. Polk. And ironically, then Congressman Abraham Lincoln very eloquently opposed that war. And he could have said the exact same thing about when the South seceded. He forgot what he believed, I guess, at that point. It was very inconsistent, as so many politicians are. But lots of people, especially the Republicans, were against that war. And it was, clearly and unjust war. We did, take parts of Mexico, and that's why you see groups like La Raza today that are around. I don't like La Raza. They're crazy leftists, but they have a point. We did initially steal their land at that point. And if you read this book, you'll see that there were some of the familiar atrocities that they would find to precision during the Civil War under Sherman and Sheridan, the Union troops. But you see the theft, the stealing, the raping, the killing of civilians and everything. You talk a little bit about the Mexican-American War, Peter.
Well, surprisingly, or maybe not surprisingly for most of the audience on this show, the Mexican-American War also started off with a false flag attack. The American troops were basically ordered by Polk to cross into like a disputed area. The Rio Grande was not the official boundary. The U.S. claimed it, but it was disputed. Mexico claimed it as well. We pushed troops over it, and then what had happened was Polk even confided to one of his aides on the night of the inauguration that he was going to take Mexico. Like that was one of his goals. So basically, what happened is one of the generals down there who got sent down there, one of his men goes missing and dies mysteriously. They find his body, and then what they end up doing is, and this is after days of them going over to a town called Matamoros, where they're firing guns and acting very aggressive and doing military drills like right in the middle of this town or like right across the river from it. And basically that was how we started it. It's really shocking.
Yeah, well, it was. I think was amazing is what I discovered. I need to Peter, talk a little bit about because I should have told people on Twitter to go to Tony's. Well, it's okay. It's hard to do this kind of stuff on the fly because we're getting I see way fewer people than we've been getting lately, and I think it's because there's nobody watching from Twitter. So and again so what we saw in the Mexican-American War, it was a precursor to what we saw in the Civil War. And those of you who remember my book, Crimes and Cover-Ups, you know how well, I described that about what was done to the South, to the Southern civilians, burning crops, destroying property, raping women left and right, incredible theft. I mean, and all this was born. We saw the beginning of that in the Mexican-American War, didn't we, Peter?
Yeah, they were. There was blowing up churches. There was raiding towns, just indiscriminate like bombing and shooting, and just like it's basically troops running wild. Basically, it's pretty wild what happened during that war.
Yeah, go ahead, Peter. I'm still typing over here. Let's see,
okay. But yeah, one of the things I found most interesting was that one of the big opponents of the Mexican-American War was John Quincy Adams, who had actually opposed it from the beginning. They were voting in Congress to bestow medals to all these soldiers who had committed these atrocities, and he had stood up in the middle of Congress and was about to give a no vote, and he had a heart attack right then and there. So, and ended up dying 2 days later. But it was this thing where it's like what a way for this guy to go to be opposing this completely senseless war.
Yeah, exactly. And Quincy Adams was. Those of you again who read Crimes and Cover-Ups know. I just even though I was obviously would have been on Jefferson's side with the Democrat Republicans. John Quincy Adams was an incredible man. He spoke, I don't know how many languages. He was absolutely brilliant. He's the kind of guy, the statesman that we would never have today. He's the one that left that great comment out there that America does not go abroad in search of monsters to destroy. And boy, how the leaders that took up after him certainly didn't listen to that, did they? But he was also, for those of you out there that like to talk about Freemasonry, he was one of the founders of the Anti-Mason Party, and he actually served in Congress. I think he was a member of the Anti-Mason Party when he was in Congress.
That's right.
And
That's right.
And I have so many great quotes from him in that book about Masonry. And he basically, said, and what I've always said, like, what, do I want to be involved in some kind of organization that has such secret oaths? It's why Catholics weren't allowed to be Masons for a long time, because they swear secrecy. And like you said, as I said, the very first oath at the lowest level, they have this really frightening, threat that if you reveal any of their secrets, they'll tear your tongue out and throw it in the tide at high tide. It's sure symbolic, but I wouldn't want to be a part of any organization that made me swear to that. Is under what? What if you discovered something really horrible, like some great, some child sex trafficking was going on in your lodge or something? So you had your tongue torn out if you try to reveal it. So I think it's Quincy Adams is just, I'm a great admirer of his, even though he wasn't in the same. And certainly I liked. Dawn says I've been freezing again. I don't know what I'm going to do about this computer. Dawn, by the way, she said she is a descendant of Abraham Lincoln. So I hope you don't mind the words I say about Abraham Lincoln. Abraham Lincoln had a very nice descendant, I must say, Dawn. But so anyhow, I don't know why I'm freezing up. So we're getting some more people now. So they must have gone over to Tony's Twitter. So anyhow, and again, we can't give away too many spoilers. I don't know, Peter, what can you talk about in that Civil War era between Lincoln and Grant, and especially we did a lot of Grant this time too.
I'm glad you asked that, because that was the thing I wanted to talk about. Is that one particularly interesting thing was the 1871 invasion of Korea, which I never knew had happened. This is, something that's regularly glossed over in history books. Is basically the United States had quote unquote open Japan, which basically involved this guy Matthew Perry showing up, and he kind of rams his ships right past the Japanese lines right into Edo Bay, and fires cannons aggressively, and gets all his ships serving, the Japan, just stuff that's like intended to be aggressive.
You're breaking up. You're breaking up a little, Peter. I don't know. It keeps like, I don't know. It has like a feedback or something. Try again, or can you? I don't know. Can you move a little or something? Maybe.
Yeah. Let me try that. Let me fix.
It was better right there. That's better right there. Okay.
Terrific. So, what I was saying is something that isn't very well known about. There was an invasion of Korea that took place under Grant's administration, 1871. Grant had a number of these kind of aggressive maneuvers. At one point, he had gone as far as lining up soldiers to invade Mexico a second time. He never ended up doing it, but there was this event where he had basically, what had happened is they decided they were going to open Korea to trade, and they had sent five American warships over, and similar to what they did in Japan, they had pushed past the lines, the naval lines of Korea, and showed up with a letter demanding, access and trade and all that. And the local ended up, telling them that they had to go, and they refused to go, and it finally resulted in the Americans blowing up a fort along the coast and killing 200 Koreans. And the leaders were all given, the soldiers were all given, medals of honor, and they ended up taking a big flag from one of the Korean generals. But they, this ruined trade relations with Korea going way back to the 19th century. But this is just something that's completely surprising to me, just to find out this is happening.
Yeah,
I've never seen it.
Yeah, you're breaking up again. You were good there for a minute, but it's I know it can't be helped, but it's and apparently I'm freezing up too. So hopefully people will stick with this as this high quality broadcast continues. I don't know why I'm freezing up all the time lately, but I am. This thing was working good for a while, and I don't know. Maybe it's part of my shadow ban or something. They decided to interfere with that. I do that show every Saturday night with Brian D. Roberts. Maybe he'll show up in the chat room here, and Australian Ben, where we watch movies and comment on it, kind of MST 3000 style, and conspiracy type documentaries. And I couldn't do it last Saturday. It just kept kicking me out. It wouldn't work. So that never happened before. So I don't know. Maybe this is a new element they're throwing at me or something, but it's making it even harder to.
Yeah, I noticed last week's show was a little staticky.
Yeah. I don't have that trouble. I do a lot of interviews, and when I never have any trouble with Rents, and Rents is very picky. He never has any trouble with my sound. And the other interviews, I typically don't, a couple, but most of them don't have any problems. It seems to be when I'm hosting my own show, that seems to be, and of course the Saturday show as well. That seems to be the big difficulty. So, and White Wolf says my internet was great until iProtest came on. Yeah, well, it has that it has that effect on people, but apparently. So, but we. But Grant,
Don,
certainly,
what in the book was the most? Go ahead.
Was the most what?
What was the most? What were some of the most shocking things
that I discovered? Yeah,
what was some of the most?
I think
possible for the book.
Yeah, well, I learned lots of stuff. Certainly, the invasion of Korea. That shocked in the 19th century. We had that. Just to know the extent of Woodrow Wilson's interventionist policy. I mean, he invaded Mexico like 8 times. Or something. And I don't want to give any spoilers, but there was a high-profile politician that wanted to start his own plantation in Haiti. Beloved liberal. So a beloved liberal who had a fantasy about starting a plantation in an all-black country. And wow, what happened to Peter? Uh-oh. Peter's gone now. Oh boy, I hate being on my own. Chris Graves, I'm not hearing from him. He's not answering his text. Chris, by the way, is going through. It's not getting any better for him. He's going through a very rough time. So if you can see it in your heart, I know some of you have, and I appreciate it, and he certainly appreciates it. Please, if you can, try to give to him in some way, PayPal, Venmo, whatever he's advertising on his social media. And and I don't have Peter here. Well, until Peter comes back, let's. I want to put this. Hold on. I didn't think I was in it to share the screen, but let's do a little bit about that. Let's put. Well, I just wrote this today. It's already getting lots of play. I think it's going to get lots of views and everything, and I think it's hopefully it'll be published by Lou Rockwell, like most of my stuff is. Okay. Okay, let me go back to here. Okay, so we're going to present. Okay, let's share the screen. Peter's coming back, I see. Okay. Okay, they can see America 2.0 goes to the Titanic Olympics. If you're not subscribed to me on Substack, please do so. DonaldJeffries.substack.com. I go over the crazed Olympics in this Substack, so you should get some laughs out of it. I tried to be funny with it. There's Peter back. Hey, Peter, what's going on?
Hey,
Lost you there.
sorry about that. I don't quite know what's up with our connection, but
yeah, it's I don't know. Somebody may be interfering with it. You know, it's my connection's always shaky, but yeah, I appreciate you doing it from, I know you're doing it literally on the fly here as you're working, but you asked me about, so that what was the most surprising? That was certainly one of them, that someone would want to start a plantation in Haiti and be a good liberal. I think, I didn't know the extent to which Thomas Jefferson was process by which the judiciary usurped its authority and really shattered the checks and balances. And we both parties, both left and right, now pay homage to it. They all just wait. Which way is the court going to decide? Will some federal judge rule in our favor? That's not the way the system's supposed to work, and it's not a constitutional republic or a democracy. That's just ridiculous to have a judge decide these kind of questions. But that's the way all our elected officials allowed, and Thomas Jefferson certainly didn't feel that way about it. Certainly the restoration of Joe McCarthy's reputation again, which is on you and Joe.
oh man, I don't know how much of that I want to spoil.
Yeah, I don't want to spoil, but it's basically he wasn't what you think he was. I was familiar enough with this, and again, this ties into so many of my beliefs tie into the Kennedy family. Everybody knows I'm a Kennedy fanboy, and I go into the book a lot about a lot of the Kennedy stuff. We look at the Joe Kennedy Jr.'s death again, which I think was suspicious. We can't find out that much about it, but there's enough about it to know that it was a mission. For those of you who don't know, he was the older brother of JFK. I mean, you think JFK was good looking. Joe Kennedy was better looking. I mean, he was Cary Grant, intelligent, and he was a natural politician. Unlike JFK, he was an introvert and was a writer. Joe Kennedy Jr. was a glad-hander, natural politician, and that his father, Joe Kennedy Sr., who those of you know, I think I'm his only fan, but I'm trying to restore his reputation as well because he's been unfairly maligned forever as a bootlegger and mafia connections, all this bullshit. And it all comes from CIA and mafia sources. Joe Kennedy Sr. in reality was one of the first critics of the Federal Reserve. He was good. He was as Robert F. Kennedy Jr. has pointed out, he was anti-war. I'm going to mute you for a second, Peter.
Sure.
If I can, how can I do this?
I'll mute myself. Hold on a second.
Okay, then I'll second. But as RFK Jr. pointed out, his grandfather was World War I. Was an anti-war activist in World War I. Most people don't think of it. They know he's part of the America First movement in World War II. And you read his eloquent statements, and I have some of his words in the book where he came up with something I don't think anybody has ever expressed it better when he said, I would like all the parents in the world to tell me to come up with one good reason why their son should go off to die in a war. And it doesn't, it's just put down to brass tacks. That's what it is. What reason could the state give you to sacrifice your son for a war? That's one thing if you're being attacked, which we aren't. We haven't been attacked since the War of 1812. And no, I don't include Pearl Harbor. And by the way, Joe McCarthy, as you'll see in this book, was the first conspiracy theorist on World War II. I mean, on Pearl Harbor. No, White Wolf. Joe Kennedy was a critic of the Federal Reserve. You keep saying he's not in the Federal Reserve. He was not. You got to understand what happened to Joe Kennedy Sr. He lost. Look at all the tragedy he had. They kept killing his children and his grandchildren. They despised the guy. he almost came to blows in the Oval Office with Harry Truman after he said, accused Roosevelt of killing. He called Roosevelt that crippled son of a bitch that killed his son in a nonsensical war mission, which again had no purpose at all, and took out. It was, I think, the first Kennedy assassination. So we talk a little bit about that in there. We talk a little bit about more Joe Kennedy Sr.'s real record. All of that, all of the myths about him bootlegging, all that comes from CIA and mafia sources. The CIA hated him. And I learned from RFK Jr. that, and I mentioned in the book, that his grandfather, and this is something I had never known. All the investigations I've done in the Kennedys over the years, there was a presidential commission on CIA abuses and their power, and they were concerned about it in the 1950s. Joe Kennedy Sr. sat on that commission. He was the most critical member of the commission towards the CIA, and he advised and suggested that they should strip all their power except strict foreign policy gathering in that one. So Allen Dulles, who was the director of the CIA at that time, hated the Kennedys before JFK became president. So imagine how incensed he was when this his enemy, Joe Kennedy Sr.'s son, become president. Anyway, so there's a lot more about that. We'll have excerpts from RFK Jr.'s diary in there, which reveals JFK Jr.'s relationship with his sister, Caroline, which I believe was fractured over his interest in the assassination. I'm sorry, Peter, chime in again. I don't want to hog this all up.
That's not a problem. I was actually causing quite a bit of noise here, so yeah, not a problem. The Kennedy section is really one of the best bits of research in this book. I know that was the main chapter that you had worked on. Yeah. I had ended up doing, I think I did about 5% of the Kennedy stuff, and I added a few little details, but it was pretty much all you.
Yeah, well, I had to do something for my book, but again, I can see the people that I realize that I pretty much stand alone. Although I've got Jeff Renz coming around to me now. Joe Kennedy Sr., if you look at, again, this guy, look who his friends were. And we talk about that in the book. He was good friends with James Forrestal. James Forrestal, one of the first critics of Israel. And Joe Kennedy Sr., believe me, was a big-time critic of Israel. And Chris Buchan, if you think he was slime, you see what he was saying behind the scenes about Jewish influence and power. Not many people were talking like that, like he was. And but Forrestal, of course, was pitched out of a window at Bethesda Naval Hospital. Truman's Secretary of Defense.
If I could add something, Don.
Sure.
One of the most surprising things to me to find in this book was that while James Forrestal, while he was in Bethesda, the powers that be kept denying him, access to his brother and several really close friends. Well, you know who one of the people was that made his way into his hospital room?
Yeah.
Somehow he bowled his way in there. Was none other than Lyndon Johnson.
Yeah. How about that? Yeah, that's something.
Yeah, it's incredibly surprising. It was like an aide to Forrestal named Max Leva who had actually reported it. I just found that shocking. There isn't much information on what they even talked about or why. Apparently, Forrestal didn't want Lyndon Johnson there at all, and Johnson showed up anyway and forced his way in to talk with Forrestal about God knows what. All right.
And I would put Joe Kennedy Sr. to my Substack. Okay, let me share the screen again here. I apologize. We're supposed to have 2 guests. I don't know what happened to Chris. Hopefully he'll come show. And Peter's having a problematic connection. Yeah, so let's switch gears here just while we can. And there's the iconic picture of the all drag queen Last Supper spoof. The fact checkers tell us, however, that it wasn't the Last Supper. It was actually a celebration of the Greek god Dionysus. And he, I'm sure if that's the case, that he would be, flattered to have an obese drag queen portray him. But so we talk about that. We talk about the nonsensical. I mean, and there's the man that was chosen to carry the torch for America. I mean, it makes you proud to be an American. Then you can hear Lee Greenwood singing. Snoop Dogg, noted sportsman, right? I mean, this. Your polo expert, Dr. Joe Biden. So again, proud to be an American. And there's the gymnastics team. As I commented, I remember watching gymnastics when I was young. There's nothing but white girls on the USA team. Now, you got one white there. 4 out of 5 are non-white. I don't know. To me, it looks like the great replacement at work. I don't think. And there's the boxer who they're claiming, the guy on the right who looks like Colin Kaepernick to me. He certainly doesn't look female. And Peter, you back?
Yes, I'm
Peter's
back. Sorry about that.
Yeah. Okay. We gave you no problem. I don't know what's going on with Chris. He didn't answer my text, so I suspect it's more super drama. But anyhow, so let's see what we have here. Chris Buchan likes Forrestal. Well, you would have liked his buddy because and so Joe Kennedy's. Again, when you look at these people, you had somebody like Joe McCarthy who was a Republican, but was great friends with the Kennedy family. He was the godfather to Kathleen Kennedy, RFK's oldest child. Now they're trying to disclaim that, but believe me.
Yeah, who disclaims that is Lisa Pease. I'm kind of.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, again, they don't want the Kennedys to be associated with McCarthy. McCarthy, and as you know, Peter, what research shows, and I try to point out, McCarthy has been treated so unfairly because McCarthyism. Now, the word McCarthyism is used to describe the 1950s communist witch hunt era and it's so wrong-headed because if McCarthy was in the Senate, the House Un-American Activities Committee, which is on the surface, the name is absurd. What's an un-American activity? That was the House. So it should be.
Yeah, he had nothing to do with Hollywood witch hunts, by the way.
No, nothing. And yet he gets blamed for it. And all he was doing, he was investigating government infiltration by alleged Soviet agents or people tied to the Soviets. And he concentrated on the U.S. Army. And once he turned to the Army, that's when he got all the terrible press coverage. It was an entirely different thing. He wasn't trying to ruin anybody's career. He had nothing to do with the Hollywood 10 anything like that. But they throw all that at him. And in reality, what was he doing, Peter? You through Joseph Farrell did a lot of this as well.
Oh yeah,
he was the first conspiracy. There's Chris Graves. There he is, the first conspiracy theorist in the Pearl Harbor thing.
Well, one thing I do want to correct is he wasn't the first, but he famously read large portions of a book called.
That's right. Yes.
He read large portions of a book called Pearl Harbor Secret. It's called Story of the Secret War. And I forgot the name of the author. Morgenstern is the name of the author. And he ended up reading it into the congressional record. And it was pretty surprising because he had, there was a point where he had made a speech. I think it was in 51.
Okay, yeah.
What's his name?
And of course,
Marshall.
people keep
And
saying that they're losing me still. Yes, George Marshall. Yes, sir. I apologize for me.
Yeah, I'm losing you too, Don. Are you there?
Yeah, let me know. Let me try to close it. Okay, I'm closing the other two windows here. Okay, so I can't share the screen. Chris Graves is here. Chris, great to have you on. I don't know if you've heard any of the show, but we're talking about the book. You had a lot to do with it as well, producing a lot of research. Why don't you talk about some of the things that, some of the most interesting things that you found? Don't give away too many spoilers, but some of the material that you found for me for the book.
I'm going to go on mute for just a second here.
Okay.
I was kind of hoping Peter was going to continue, but Flight 93, the remains ended up at a top secret underground facility called Iron Mountain. A lot of people, I don't think, know about that. The soil at Shanksville was tested for jet fuel, and there wasn't a lot of jet fuel that came up when it came to Flight 93. I used to go back and forth with certain people, even people that you had on your show, Don, during 9/11 retrospectives, where they just argued that that wasn't the case. But if you really dig into it, the soil samples didn't come up with jet fuel. There's quite a bit on 9/11, JFK Jr., and things like that could fit literally 5 more hidden history books. I'm trying to think offhand. We didn't really get to touch upon some of the Mossad involvement with 9/11 because at the time, that type of stuff wasn't in the news, like with the Gaza situation, October 7th, things like that. So it was still kind of a lightning rod issue that you're not allowed to talk about. The Israelis is one of them. That's a huge lightning rod. And I didn't blame you for not including a lot of that because that stuff it's part of cancel culture. You bring certain things up about elements of 9/11, even the JFK assassination or whatever. It's grounds for cancellation nowadays.
Yeah, well, you got and it's certainly the dancing Israelis, the art students, and all that. I mean, there's something there, obviously, but I try to concentrate on like the bigger elements that it's Building 7, and then, of course, this book we went into Building 6 quite a bit. Most people don't talk about Building 6, and that's where the gold was. And
no, not only that, it was diamonds. There was a diamond heist and a gold heist in progress when the Twin Towers were collapsing, and someone warned the people that were with the dump trucks in the tunnels underneath the towers to get the hell out of there. Some people didn't survive. Quite a bit of people did survive, but we don't really know where they are now. But Building 6 was a big issue that people also don't understand that Building 6 had to do with a lot of the cartel investigations in America with the drug war. And there was a lot of records in there. And I actually tried to hook Mr. Jeffries up with someone that had witness statements with the New York Times lawsuit with the firefighters' oral histories.
Mm-hmm.
An EMT woman by the name of Patricia Ondrovic, I believe.
Yeah.
She tried to escape the collapsing second tower, and she was turned away by men in suits in the walkway, basically, of Building 6, and she was able to observe explosions going on on the ceiling, almost like a flashbulb. She described it in those witness statements, and they were almost ringing the roof the ceiling that she could see behind the well-dressed individuals. We don't know if it's Secret Service, FBI, whatever intelligence agency, whatever was blocking the door from her taking refuge in Building 6 while Tower 2 was collapsing. So Patricia Androvic, I would still to this day love to talk to you about her, what she witnessed.
Well, there were so
that.
many.
Hey, Chris.
Yeah.
You and I had actually discussed this the other day. Well, a lot of people know about the stock fraud on 9/11. One thing that's not as well known is all the credit card fraud that had taken place.
The German company that was tasked with getting the info on all the damaged hardware and software and things.
Right. Somebody was moving. I forgot what the figure was. If it was like 500 billion or something, it was some huge figure that was being moved.
It was like 500 million, I believe. Yeah.
Yeah. It was right as I think, was it Building 7 was coming down?
No, it was while the two towers were still standing, and the results of that German company that was tasked with finding out about these transactions and everything, their results have not been made public to this day.
Right, but it was like this wild, sudden money transfer that took place, like just what was it like? Yeah, during it.
Yeah, Building 7 was 5:20 p.m. that day.
Right.
These transactions were going on at like 9:15 in the morning while the two towers are still standing. To this day, we don't know what they found on all the damaged, software, hardware, whatever you want to call it. So I don't know. I don't think it's classified. It just hasn't been released to the public. But there's something there. And Don, I think you froze again, but yeah, no,
I froze again.
Well, now you're coming back, but you keep pausing and everything. I don't know.
Go ahead and talk.
There was another thing the thing that Peter and I bonded over very early on in our appreciation of Mr. Jeffries' work prior to all this. I was sending Peter different articles and videos about, and this might be much ado about nothing, but there was NYPD scanner radio transfers about missiles being shot off the top of the Woolworth building.
Oh my God, this is a good subject.
And some people described when they were climbing the stairs up to like the floors like 22 in the South Tower. It might be the North Tower, but one of the two towers, they described it like it was missile damage. Like when they were hearing explosions in both towers, obviously, that literally over 200 firefighters made claims that there was explosions going on. But there were some people that were describing what only could be described as like missile damage, as if maybe some of these missiles perhaps were targeting certain floors on the South Tower and the North Tower. Floor 22, I believe, also was the security floor that John O'Neill, who was Mr. Osama bin Laden task force, who got pulled off of that duty and given the job by Jerome Hauer, very suspiciously, to be the head of security of the World Trade Center. And then Jerome Hauer was the sole person to identify John O'Neill's body in the aftermath of the collapses. Maybe
hey,
they
Chris.
were. Yes.
What about the unusual fire that took place at the Navy Annex? Wasn't Navy Annex? Wasn't that it?
The USA Today building and the Navy Annex had unusual fires on the day. There were also reports of a car bomb at the Capitol and a fire on the Washington Mall. And they were, the source was a senior law enforcement official that confirmed both on the day. There's also talk of a Camp David crash that I think I've talked to Don about over the years, and we still don't know if that was an actual hijacking that actually did crash or not. A lot of the networks were reporting on this. Norman Mineta, of all people, confirmed it as well, that there was a Camp David crash. Don, do you know what I'm talking about? Can you hear me still?
Yeah. Can you guys hear me? I mean, I don't know what's happening. I'm gonna have to get a new computer. I guess.
No,
I don't know why.
You're clear. You're clear, completely clear right now.
Yeah, we can hear you
It
right
just
now.
keeps freezing up, and it doesn't matter. It doesn't make any sense. I've freed up bandwidth. I've closed everything down. I don't know.
Well,
I'm paranoid.
Well, Don, don't be paranoid. We're talking about some pretty lightning rod issues.
Well, yeah,
here.
that's what I'm saying. I mean, it's I have a book out there that it's the most shadow man book in the world.
I wanted to get you and Peter and your take on what I found was there was another component of the 9/11 operation with people on the ground planting explosives, and there was there's very limited television footage of this stuff, but it was confirmed on New York One, I believe, where they said that there were NYPD during the collapse of the first tower. There were NYPD with their pistols drawn because there were bombers on the ground planting explosives, which I don't want to give this away, but there's something, I think Don kept it in the book, but there was a really suspicious individual that was carrying literally a stuffed animal.
Yes.
And that plays into Bernard Carrick. Bernard Carrick was actually responsible for this individual's release the next day, and we heard nothing else about it. And
wow.
I always wanted to know what you guys thought of that. Do you think it's possible that another component was these on-the-ground bombers?
Yeah,
no one talks about this.
I'm not sure. I did in fact see that was still in the book. I don't know. It certainly is unusual, though.
And the officer,
I ended up.
The officer that was in charge of arresting this individual during the collapse ended up throwing out the first pitch for like the Yankees, like 5 years later or something. Like they were like celebrating the guy and everything.
That's so bizarre.
You guys, can you all hear me now?
Yes. I'm going to shut up. Now.
Can you? Okay. Well, I just want to make sure you can hear me because I don't know when I'm freezing up or not, but in some way, Geno Smith, who was the Jets quarterback at that time, did he give him some kind of an award or something? There's almost no mention of that guy beyond that. Nobody identified the guy with the stuffed animal. It's related to is there were early reports of explosives at the base of the building.
Yes.
And so we had several reports that are in the book. And again, they were just dropped in the memory hole.
And Bernard Carrick, the police commissioner, Don, let him go the next day.
Yeah.
Wow.
Well, thank goodness Donald Trump pardoned him later,
Right.
One of those, but Donald Trump pardoned along with the president of Death Row Records.
Well, let's just remember Donald Trump's whole thing, and this is why people probably their eyes will gloss over whenever I would bring this up. But I think Donald Trump's selection was in 2001 around this time because he brought up that there had to be other explosions to take those buildings down because he said the planes couldn't do it alone, and there had to be a reason why they kept playing that over and over again for the next couple of days. And that's just my wild speculation, conspiracy, tinfoil hat. But he became Mr. 9/11, Don, during his campaign, didn't he?
Well, Roger Stone certainly intimated that, but as everything with Trump, he never followed
He had Rudy Giuliani, Mr. 9/11.
Yes, exactly. And just like he talked about Vince Foster's death being suspicious, and then he appoints Kavanaugh, who led the cover up in the Vince Foster's death for Kenneth Starr.
Not only Vince Foster, he brought up his the guy in MSNBC.
Yes, Scarborough. Yes, sir, he
Scarborough
did.
Too.
Yeah.
Peter, can you still hear me?
Told me he knows about all the damn.
I can hear you, Chris.
All right, Donna. Yeah, no, I didn't know if it was just my thing, but what Don was referring to, Joe Scarborough on MSNBC, he had a similar kind of situation with almost like a Gary Condon, which was in the news up until 9/11, where Chandra Levy went missing. He was a congressman and everything, and her body was found in like a park in D.C. Joe Scarborough, actually, I think it was his assistant or whatever when he was a congressman, and she ended up being found in his office.
Yes, I am familiar with the story.
Yes, yeah. And Trump would bring these really like deep dives when it came to like conspiracy culture. He was giving these deep dives where he would go like, "Oh, I know what's going on. The Clinton body count and blah blah blah." Meanwhile, you see pictures of him and Epstein and all them like, joyriding on Epstein's jet together and everything. Hillary was at the island and everything too. And it's like talk about drain the swamp. It's like Trump was a part of the swamp to begin with. I really wish, I don't know if Don's still on hold or not. I don't want to take over anything, but yeah, the stuff I have on 9/11, I'll just say this. I mean, eventually one day, like there's so much stuff that was reported and has to be broken down, that there were even cell phone jammers. I think I talked to you about this, Peter. Cell phone jammers were found on the buildings surrounding, the World Trade Center complex. And I think that had a lot to do with the confusion with the firefighters' radios and stuff. They tried to just say it was incompetence afterwards with Rudy Giuliani and everything. I think that was more of a. Oh, now we don't even have the host of the show. All right, folks. So, sorry. Are you still painting?
Oh my gosh. Yeah, I'm still painting.
All right.
It's an episode of Don't Take Our Word for It.
Don't take our word for it, folks. We'll get back to it. But Mr. Don Jeffries, the reason why you and I got together in the first place. Yeah.
That's true.
We are the two searchers or whatever. Don't worry, Don. We still love you, and you're still cute. All right, now I think I'm Peter. Are you there anymore? Oh, you're not even there now. Anyway, folks, I don't know how much longer I'm going to be able to do this podcasting stuff, but I hope Don and Peter come back soon because, well, anyway, maybe I'm not even online anymore. It was a labor of love in terms of all the things that Peter and I were sending Don. I sent Don so much stuff that it actually became Hidden History 3 and Hidden History 4. Hidden History 4 is going to go into like the spree shooting phenomenon. I don't even know if you want to call it a phenomenon, but that whole concept of, a spree shooter just going off his rocker and shooting a whole bunch of people. Like there's a lot of material out there, including Columbine, and even going back to the UT Tower shooter, Charles Whitman, which I was able to find some connections with Lee Harvey Oswald.
Okay, I'm back. Can anybody hear me?
Oh, thank God. Okay, all right. I didn't want to take over your protest. All right, can you hear me, Don? Can you hear me, sir?
I can hear you. You guys hear me? I had to restart my thing.
Yeah, I'm gonna. I'm going to shut up now. I tried to fill in the blanks while you were gone.
Well, I appreciate it. Yeah, and yeah, this is the exact same thing that happened last week. So I don't know. I'm gonna have to look for a new.
Well, you were talking about Scarborough. Scarborough was brought up by Trump, and he was given all these like literally deep dive rabbit hole things that he couldn't possibly have come up with on his own. Am I wrong?
Right. No, exactly, and that's what Trump does. Trump either does know about all the conspiracies, like Roger Stone says, and that's just part of his act, the Trumpenstein Act, where he throws out little hints to people like us to get us excited, because the Joe Scarborough case is not well known, as you know.
No,
I tried to look into that in history. Lori, even with a name like Klosutis, her name was Lori Klosutis, a very unusual name. So we found phone numbers for her, and I think I tracked down her.
We got spooked by her significant other, didn't we?
Whoa! What?
Yes.
I did.
Not us, but he came out. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. Well, because her ex-husband or whatever, ex-boyfriend or whatever it was, came out and really blasted Trump, for insinuating that. So apparently they're satisfied with it. I think she was 25, 28 or something. Great shape, marathon runner or whatever, at least a jogger.
Like a Chandra Levy type.
Yeah. And she's found dead with a head wound in a congressman's office. Now, if that doesn't warrant, some kind of a national story, they swept it under the rug. And Michael Moore, of all people, I tried to contact him while writing it. Of course, he didn't answer me, but he started a website for a while called Joe Scarborough Killed His Intern.com.
You mean Michael Moore, the filmmaker?
Yes, Michael Moore, the filmmaker.
He wouldn't respond to you when you followed up on that, Don.
No, and that's not surprising. But why did he back off like that?
Can I tell you guys something about Michael Moore?
Sure.
He was one of the last people to interview a contractor in Iraq by the name of Nick Berg, and Nick Berg ended up getting beheaded. And I have a feeling he directed the video. And I can say that because in the years since, with the ISIS videos, with the ISIS beheadings or whatever, there's been a lot of there's been bones of contention whether or not they're legit or not. And I know you know somebody by the name of Abby Martin, right? Robbie Martin. Robbie Martin is her brother. Robbie Martin did an interview with a guy named Chuck Ocelli that you and I both know. Chuck Ocelli told me during that interview, Robbie Martin admitted that he was a part of one of these ISIS beheading videos that they put out as being ISIS.
That's Abby's brother.
Oh, wow.
Right?
Yes. In a garage in LA.
Isn't that something? Yeah.
I'm not making that up, folks.
Oh, wow.
If that's true, then I don't know what else to say. Like, what is real and what is not? Like, you can, call me names about Sandy Hook or all these other things. The Harley Davidson guy on 9/11. Like, you don't know what to question. What is real, what is not, and I think you can still hear me. Can you still hear me?
Yeah. You guys, I hope
I can.
Okay.
Yeah, can I try? Hopefully, we're starting. If you guys can hear me now, hopefully.
Yeah. And I tried to put you in contact with Seymour Hersh, John. Remember?
They were starting
because we wanted.
Why? I called him. Yeah.
Yeah, Don reached out to him again.
I called him right before you called him, and he wouldn't talk to me. He talked to you a little bit more, and then Timothy McVeigh's father talked to you a little bit more than me.
Yeah, a little bit.
Seymour Hersh would not talk about the Iraq video. I don't know what you want to call it, like the creme de la creme of prisoner abuse in Iraq. That's a whole thing. Like, it goes into all these UBC codes and stuff on the internet where if you were to access that, the Pentagon could get you on child pornography, even though they're the ones responsible for the material on the videos. That's not in the book, I don't think at all, Peter.
No.
But it's horrifying nonetheless.
Okay, it looked like I was gone for a second again for some reason. Yeah.
I hope I'm making sense. I don't know.
You're talking about the horrific videos, and I think
The Iraqi mothers screaming of their sons. Yes. Yeah. Which is not a popular thing. And we can't hear you, Don. I'm going to shut up. I'm going to mute right now.
like that would have. I mean, it might even wake some mothers up anyhow. You know, if you have little boys,
you think it would have ended the Iraq War sooner if that had actually come to fruition? Like,
it should have had some kind of impact, I think, especially if you're seeing the screaming mothers. Well, I mean, and he claimed that it would be shown, and you're right, he won't talk about it now, and he's dropped it, and nobody else was talking about it besides him. So right. I don't know what, but I mean,
that being threatened by Dick Cheney of all people.
Well, you talk about a bombshell, but then it's the same kind of thing we heard. We heard that there.
Well, I ended up finding the stuff that he was talking about, but it's stuff that can get you into a lot of trouble.
Yeah, no, it is, and then you have the Hunter Biden laptop, and that's just completely been dropped. Tucker Carlson never talked about anything, but early on, I think even Rudy Giuliani mentioned there was a 10-year-old Chinese girl getting raped on the laptop, the video of it by Hunter Biden.
Well, they even talked about Anthony Weiner's laptop having the Hillary video.
Yes. That's what I was saying, and I don't know what happened to that. And then also on Hunter's laptop, supposedly many images of his 14-year-old niece, naked or near naked. Again, so to me, these are much more serious things than that he was with a prostitute. But all you hear is the prostitute and the crack pipe and all that. And what about that?
That reminds me of the Bill Clinton strategy, right? Mm-hmm. Bill Clinton's strategy was to get him on cheating on his wife, right? When you had over 150 people associated with him and Hillary that ended up dead. Kenneth Starr only looked at the Monica Lewinsky stuff. He did not look at the Clinton body count and whatever. And some people still think that that's just a bunch of BS. I wish I could hear you. I'm sorry. I can't hear you at all. I wish I could really hear you. I hope I'm not taking over this. All right, should I leave?
I can't hear Don either. Are you there, Chris?
I'm there, Peter.
Hey, dude. Yeah. Hey. I can't hear Don either, but I actually started doing more research into what you were just talking about. For the next book. So.
In this before, which I went into when you both disappeared, I went into the school shooting stuff. Yeah. Please tell me what you found, my friend.
Well, not specifically in that area, but I started getting more into the whole body count thing that you were mentioning. Yeah. And there's a lot that just is not gone into. That, you know.
Did you go into the Monica thing being with the Mossad?
No. I mostly got into stuff that was no, I hadn't heard that. You should send me something on that, would you?
I will. Yeah. No, please don't let me
You guys hear me now?
Yes. Yeah.
What were you talking about, Don?
Peter was going to give us a bombshell on the Clinton body count, which talk about
it. It's not a bombshell really, but I've actually just started sending Don research for the fourth book.
There's so much there with the school shooting stuff too, but
too. It keeps saying I'm having trouble connecting.
The dog had Monica Lewinsky or a figure that looked like Monica Lewinsky with a Clinton-like figure. I think it was Wag the Dog, right? And where it was almost the same exact. All right, Don, I'm sorry. I keep cutting you off. Can't hear you.
I think it was in one of Don's recent articles that he commented that that's one of the films that you never see replayed on TV. Let's get that.
Yeah, I'm gonna shut up from now on.
I can hear you, Chris. Can you hear me?
Yeah, brother. I can.
Man, this is like a comedy of errors.
Yeah, maybe there's too many people on the stream. Maybe I'm thinking about just leaving the studio.
Yeah, I might be the one to go. I'm just walking up and down a ladder painting while I'm trying to have this conversation.
No, but I want to hear what you were saying about the body count, though, man. This is brand new stuff, people. Like I haven't heard this one
Can you?
from
It's
my
letting
brother
me.
from another mother.
Well,
It's letting me. It let me put something in the chat room. Can you hear me now?
Yeah, I can hear you.
Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Okay.
We could. Peter, I love you, dude. I don't know if Peter can hear me anymore. I was really looking forward to this episode, too. Can anyone hear anything? Peter, you still there? A lot. Oh, no. Are you guys still there? Oh, man. I was looking forward to it. Peter, you still there? Oh, I hope he didn't leave.
No, I don't know.
Is anyone there?
Chris, I'm here, but it won't let me type. Chris, can you?
Yeah, I can hear you. Yeah. Just I'm
Okay,
gonna shut up. Just keep going. Yeah. I'm here. Is Peter still there? Oh, now I can't hear Don again. What is going? Peter, are you?
Chris.
I can hear you now. Yeah,
Anybody?
I can hear you. Is Peter there? Are you both there? Why is he going in? Okay.
I don't know.
All right. Okay.
You keep talking because I can't. Nobody can hear me. I keep going in.
Peter,
I don't know what's going on.
Don, I can hear you now. Peter,
Okay, that's
are
good.
you there? Peter, are you there?
I don't know what happened to Peter. I don't know.
All right. Anyway, Don, I'm sorry. I don't want to take over the thing.
Well, you have to because they can't hear me. So you
no,
keep
I can
talking.
hear you now. No, I can hear you clear now. Yeah.
But well, I'll talk to you as soon as I can. But I apologize to everybody. I don't know what's going on. I guess I'll have to get a new laptop. I seem to be having these problems exclusively with this show or StreamYard or something. I don't know why.
What are you most proud of this book, Don? Let me ask you this.
Oh, that's a hard thing. I mean, I think there's so much to be, the one thing it's hard to say because I think we
Was it the thing that Peter found was that the slaughter of the Native Americans? Because I had never heard that story myself, and that's really important.
Now, can you hear me now? I went out of the stage and came back. Sometimes that works. I don't know why you're seeing. It makes no sense that you're seeing that you're seeing the video, but you can't hear the audio. I don't understand that. So nobody can hear me still. Chris, I can hear. I can hear Chris. Can you hear Chris? Yes, we can hear you. Okay, they say they can hear me now. So, Chris, talk. I don't know what happened to Peter. You were gone. They told me they couldn't hear any of us, and they can see video. They can see me.
I just called Peter and I told him I was going to leave the studio and re-enter. He's going to try to do the same thing. This is an important episode, and like anything, I don't know what is going on right now. All right, there's Peter right now. I want to hear the two of yous. I don't want to hear me droning on and on. Peter, can we? Can you still hear? I can just see you, Don. I can't hear you. I don't know. I literally just paid my StreamYard subscription. Okay. Now it's just me. Okay. I can't hear Don. Oh, man. Folks, if you can hear me right now, possibly this weekend, I'm going to try to work things out with Peter and Don. Maybe we can do a deep dive on one of my shows with the StreamYard that I have. Right now, I'm pretty limited with my podcasting capabilities, but I think I can hear Don right now. Don, are you back?
Can you hear me?
Okay, here we go.
Can you hear me now? Okay.
I can hear you now. Yeah, absolutely.
Okay. I have no idea why. They're obviously playing. People are saying here somebody's. It does seem like somebody's screwing this because it makes no sense why.
It's heartbreaking because this was a labor of love for a lot of years, and
it was. Yeah.
I was just telling the audience. I don't know if you heard me, but at some point this weekend or next week or whatever, and if I can get the two of you guys back, we'll do a deeper dive for anyone that is here right now. But Don, I had asked you about the Joe Kennedy Jr. Murder. I don't know if you brought that up in the beginning of the show or not. I was only able to join at a certain point. Is that too much of a deep dive right now? Oh, here's Peter. Okay. God, I can't hear anybody now. It's heartbreaking. Peter, are you there? I can barely hear. Okay.
Well, Chris, go ahead and talk.
Can you hear me? I can't hear you, sir.
Hear me?
All right. Can you hear me?
I can hear you.
Anyway, people should go out and support Don's efforts.
Okay, now it says they can hear me. You guys can hear me? Okay, Chris, it says they can hear me.
Hidden History 3.
So you guys can hear me in the chat. Let me know. For some reason, Chris can't hear me. I can hear him. Can you hear me in the chat?
Peter,
Yes.
Are you there?
Okay, Chris, I don't. Okay, I'm gonna go Joe Jr. Chris can't hear me, but Chris, I don't know why they can. Chris, they can hear us both, so I don't know why, and I can hear you. Can you hear me, Chris? No, I can't hear it. Can you hear it? Can you guys still hear me? Because I can't hear Chris now. And again, I really apologize. This is a clusterfuck of monumental proportions. I have to think somebody is screwing with something here, because this makes no sense, especially when I've restarted it and people say they can see the audio. I mean, see the video. Chris keeps going in and out. Peter has disappeared. All our connections are okay. At least you can hear me. Okay. You can hear me, but not Chris. I don't know what's happened, guys. I apologize for this. Let me know if I go out again. I have no idea what's happening. This is, we've had problems in the past, but this is absolutely ridiculous. I don't understand it. And stop playing telephone and just, well, I'm trying to talk. I don't, again, people, I don't know when you can hear me. Okay. Is Peter back? Peter, are you there? Peter? Chris, are you there?
I'm here. Is Tony?
Okay.
Is Tony?
All right. We'll talk. So the Joe Jr. stuff, and maybe these guys can hear me. You all can hear me, hopefully. I will, as I talked a little bit about it, and hopefully Chris can hear it, is that I think Joe Jr.'s death was the first Kennedy assassination, and we talk a little bit about it. One of the things I found out in the book, I'll give you a little teaser, is that, and I don't think any Kennedy assassination researcher has ever discovered this. I didn't. But on the morning of November 22nd, 1963, the day he was killed, at the Chamber of Commerce breakfast where JFK made his last speech, very funny speech, he met with the family of the co-pilot that died with JFK Jr. in that plane. Now, for whatever reason, he was meeting with him that day. And apparently, one of the many things is those Kennedy haters out there, they did a lot of charity behind the scenes that nobody knew about. The guy who died with JFK Jr. had a young family. They paid for the kids to go to college. They helped them out financially over the years. The Kennedy family did. And JFK Jr. met with them, was meeting with them that day. And this cosmic coincidence, the day of his assassination, to talk about. And there's also a story that I found that was in Look magazine. Again, the description is in American Memory Hole, and it's very strange, where it indicates that JFK apparently was looking into his brother's death. I mean, that's the impression I got, but it's very hard to find any other information out about it. And the date of the magazine that came out was actually after the assassination, so it doesn't make any sense. But so we, and I talked about it a little bit in Hidden History as well. Chris, Chris, you there? Peter, you there? What I'm doing is I'm just removing the stage and put it. So you guys can still hear me. Let me know in the chat room, please. I'm assuming you can, because you're not saying it to. Please, somebody just let me know in the chat. Can you still hear me? I hate to keep asking you this, but I keep fading in and out. So I'm assuming you can hear me. So I want to know that I'm talking, that somebody's hearing me. Because Peter and Chris, okay, Don Lambert says yes. Okay. So basically, I guess we'll just, American Memory Hole. I'm loud and clear what Will says. So I really don't know what's going on. The Bronco Stopper 111, where's the best place to order my books? Other than Masking the Truth, which you can't get anywhere almost now because of Amazon and Barnes and Noble, basically shadow banning it. So you go to the publisher there, Midnight Writers News, Lulu. I've given out the link a bunch of times. So just type in Midnight Writer News, Lulu, for Masking the Truth. All my other books, because I do get a lot more from the publisher there, than I would from anywhere else. And I always tell people to get the best deal they can. I don't care if you don't like Amazon, go to Barnes and Noble. There's Books A Million. There's tons of places you can buy it. I always say to get the best deal. So I don't get any really significantly more. They give us such, chump change anyhow to authors. That's just what they do. So it's not a question of that. I just ask you to get the best deal, and I'm just grateful if you get the book. White Wolf says the second he cannot hear, he will shout it out. Keep talking, keep talking. Okay, I'm trying to. I apologize. I don't know what's going on with that. It's like it looked like it was my connection that was the problem, and now I appear to have the only strong connection. So I don't know what is going on with Chris and Peter, but let's hope they do. So the reason why, again, we're trying to promote this is because it can be pre-ordered now, and I'm not suggesting that everyone pre-ordered, but a lot of people ask me about audio versions of my books, and some of them have audio versions, some of them don't. And this one I thought, because Skyhorse has had audio versions of my other books, and I thought it would automatically have one, but they tell me again the publishing industry has changed. Believe me, if anything, they're giving us either less than they used to give us, and it is what it is. Reality, there are fewer readers out there. But if you are interested in audio version, the way to try to make that happen is to pre-order the book, because apparently they're going to go by how much demand there is for the book before it's published to determine whether they have an audio book. So I don't know. I mean, it's been selling pretty well pre-sale, so they should, but who knows? White Wolf says he's immensely looking forward to Hidden History 3, which is, American Memory Hole, actually, just to, correct it. But hello to William Hale from the land down under. Appreciate you being here. So, so that's and I appreciate so many of you, the support you show me on Substack and everywhere else. And we will, as you know, I already had the last thing I wrote before today's thing about the Olympics was stuff that didn't make it into, it's some material that didn't make it into American Memory Hole. And I'll probably have at least one more post like that too, with things that, because we couldn't fit everything in. We tried, but there's just so much information. It's a long book anyhow. It's 450 pages or whatever. So there's so many things to cover. That's why to talk about it is even tough, because you're talking about from the dawn of the Republic with Thomas Jefferson's fight against judicial review and everything else, all the way to almost to modern day. I still, we go through, I think I basically go up through 9/11 or so. We touch a little bit more on the body count and so forth. But Trump is going to be a whole different thing. That's going to be in the next volume, and it's probably going to be a book of itself, because the more, especially with the Trump assassination attempt, there's just so much material there. So I don't think I can incorporate it. And it's nice to see Ellen Corley, very wonderful supporter. She's been trying to say, keep talking like a monologue. Yeah, that's what I would do typically. But this was, I'm sorry, this was such a confusing show, because they kept, they kept cutting me off, and now I'm here and they're cutting them off. So I don't know what to think. James Doe says history's changing so fast. How can you keep up? Yeah, I don't know. That's a good question. You can. That's why it is hard to do that. Chris Grays. Chris Grays is on video now. Are you there,
Don?
Chris?
Don?
Yes. Peter, can you hear me?
Hey, yeah, I can hear you.
Okay, because they've been hearing me, but not you guys. Chris, can you hear us? Chris, are you there? I see Chris. Okay, well, Chris is there, but so Peter, you can hear me, right?
I can hear you now.
Okay, Peter, go ahead. I don't know what you want to talk about, because who knows when we're going to lose you again. So if anything you've heard or whatever you want to talk about, because I've been talking, and anything that you find interesting, that you think that you can fit in there.
Let's see. My favorite chapter in the entire book is the Roosevelt chapter. It's particularly long. I ended up having to study between 8 and 10 books in order to put it together, with Don. And we cover quite a bit it's not even World War II era, that I think is going to surprise a lot of people. and is really going to. I mean, you even commented, Don, that it was it ended up, you didn't realize that there was so much horrendous stuff.
Yeah, it was just so much. You kept sending me stuff I couldn't turn down. But yeah, I mean, he really showed. It's especially revealing now when you look at our climate, the cancel culture, and what's going on now. Roosevelt invented that, and he really did. And White Wolf says Roosevelt was Stalin with kid gloves. Well, that was his buddy too. Remember, Uncle Joe? That was our ally in the good war, as they call it. But yeah, we had so much stuff that you sent me so many things from. What was the name of that book? Was it Shivelbush or something?
Shivelbush. It was.
Shivelbush,
it was a book called Three New Deals, and he gets into this program that you don't really hear reported on anymore, but it's a New Deal program of the National Recovery Act that was called the Blue Eagle Program, and it involved. It was like this. It was very Orwellian to look back on it, but they had set up like a whole campaign where people had to have posters to prove that they were part of the they supported the government in its efforts. But then the guy who was leading it, I forgot his name now, but he was coming out saying that people who didn't support it were the enemy.
Donovan, I think it was it Donovan?
I don't recall, but he was saying like how they deserve like to get beat up if they didn't support it.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I see Chris. I don't know, Chris, can you hear us?
Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear Chris. Yeah, can you hear us?
Someone's fucking with us, Don.
Yeah, well, they definitely are.
Pardon the language, but
yeah, well, they are.
This is like 3 or 4 years in the making.
Yeah.
So Donovan was a singer that did "Season of the Witch" in 1973.
Yes,
he also did that Atlantis song.
Yeah, see, this is Wild Bill Donovan, I believe.
Right.
The OSS.
Right. Okay.
And so, Chris, while we got you, tell what did you want to talk about while you're still here?
Well, no, I was just saying. I think the last place we left off was what you guys thought of the possibility that there was another component to September 11th, 2001 with bombers on the ground. I never really got to get both Peter and your take on that possibility.
Well, yeah. Go ahead. What do you think, Peter? Go on. Tell me what you think.
I mean, I completely believe it. I'm not the expert on this subject that you are, Chris, but I mean, there's one other story that doesn't get talked about often is the Secret Service with rocket launchers.
Yeah, the Secret Service also had a final report about a plane hitting the White House too. I think I sent that to Don a while ago too. Why would they have a complete they literally had a complete as if it actually happened. They had a complete report.
Yeah.
And I think the loose change people on Tapatalk, I think on one of the Reddits or whatever, one of the message boards had a link to it and everything, where literally the Secret Service wrote a whole report as if a plane had actually hit the White House, and it was complete, and it was on the morning of 9/11. So who wrote this report like in such a short amount of time?
It's like the Secret Service memo that talked about finding Vince Foster's body in his car. Remember that one?
Yes.
And so a lot of times he gets these interesting Secret Service memos. But I think those early reports of the explosions at the base of the building were corroborated each other, and something was going on. And you conclude William Rodriguez's accounts, of the explosions that were down in the sub-basement and other people and so forth. So something was going on there. And of course, in this book, we'll show, I just quote from, I couldn't even include them all. There's too many accounts. There was over 150 firefighters.
Including Lou Caccioli.
Yes, including Lou Caccioli, who
hundreds.
Yeah, hundreds that reported explosions. That's just firefighters that reported explosions in the building. So the idea that the 9/11 Commission or whatever said there was no evidence of this, I mean, that's all there was. Was that
Jack Kelly for USAtoday.com. he ended up getting in trouble, and his career was flushed down the drain after 9/11. But he corroborated what Rick Sanchez and Pat Dawson said. Rick Sanchez for MSNBC claimed that he had talked to FBI personnel that said that there were vans packed with explosives in the basements that went off.
Yeah.
And they found a suspicious device. And Pat Dawson on NBC, actually, and you people can look it up on YouTube. Pat Dawson corroborated, not only corroborated, he interviewed Albert Turry, the chief of safety for the New York Fire Department, said that there was either explosives on the planes or that the buildings were filled with explosives. And I tried to get Mr. Jeffries in contact with Pat Dawson, but he's not known. There's other videos on YouTube. He's not known to be that friendly when you approach him about this subject, but he did on the day say that Albert Turry and other New York Fire Department personnel said that there was bombs in the buildings and on the planes, possibly.
I don't know what happened to Peter. We lost Peter again. I don't know. At least they can hear us now. Hopefully Peter will be back on. But there's so much there. And Oklahoma City, we did a lot on that too, Chris. And you came on and I was shocked. Now I haven't heard back from her. And I told you I was very excited. Tanya Yiki, who is the widow of Terrence Yiki, who was the police officer who was kind of the Roger Craig of the Oklahoma City thing, where he was really doing his job. And he was on the cover of I think it was one of these magazines. He was on the cover of Rescuing a Baby. Yes, yeah, and he committed the strangest suicide. You have to read about it to believe. I covered it.
I don't want to give it up, but the daycare center operator and her husband have a lot to do with a lot.
Yes, we have a lot about that in the book, and we have still, I had Charles Key, State Representative Charles Key, was one of the few players left in this who's alive and still willing to talk.
And he knew what I was talking about. He knew. Oh yeah,
he said they tried to locate her when they did their investigation, and she wasn't talking then. So she's scared. Her husband's dead, and she knows something's going on. But I mean,
Well, Don, do you remember? I ended up sending you her. She actually had the official statements about meeting Tim McVeigh like a couple of weeks or maybe a month or two before.
Yeah,
and he was acting suspicious, like spelling out his name so she would remember.
It was very much like one of the Lee Harvey Oswald impersonations. Yes, very much like that.
Right.
Clearly, we're trying to make people. He said, I have a couple of them in the book, or two, maybe one or two others, where he said, remember how it's spelled. This is how it's spelled. I mean, he was very, very conscious that you're going to hear about me and all this stuff.
And when the most amount of children would be in the daycare center too.
Yeah. I mean, very just the same kind of stuff, like Oswald
or Muhammad Atta, Oswald and Muhammad Atta, McVeigh. Yeah. They're all the same. They're like for anyone out there, like when it comes to espionage and intelligence agency stuff, you always have a backstory. They call it a legend, right? And you want to build up the legend. Lee Harvey Oswald was even mentioned in a book years before the JFK assassination, right?
Well, no, he was
a character in the book. If Peter was still here, he'd be able to back me up.
Yes, Kerry Thornley, who was his buddy, and in the book Pipe the Bimbo in Red, which I just published last year, that I wrote with William Law, a great medical researcher. We discovered that Kerry Thornley was the guy who when they printed out the Fair Play for Cuba pamphlets that Oswald passed out. Harold Weisberg found this out. Again, he got buried in his work in Oswald, New Orleans, which is his least read work. And Weisberg tracked down the guy who printed out the pamphlets, and he interviewed him and the other woman that worked there, the only two people that were there. And he gave them, he showed them a bunch of photos. He wanted to say, who picked these pamphlets up? It wasn't Oswald. Both of them identified Kerry Thornley as the guy who picked them up. Kerry Thornley was a bizarre. I have a lot about him in Pipe the Bimbo in Red, but he's key to this case. He also looked a lot like Oswald. He could have been responsible for some of the impersonations. And to top it off, people who know about my novel, The Unreals, that was influenced by the trilogy Illuminatus. It was written by Robert Shea and Robert Anton Wilson back in the 70s. Really, I had never heard of the Illuminati before that. And they really dragged me beyond the JFK assassination into that world. But I had no idea, that they had this whole thing. They kept talking about Discordianism. And one of the Discordian concepts was never whistle while you piss. I remember that. And then Discordianism was something made up by Carrie Thornley. Robert Anton Wilson was buddies with Carrie, and so Carrie Thornley shows up years later, but Carrie Thornley is the guy you're talking about. He was worth something about Lee Harvey Oswald before the assassination. Now, who would be writing a book about an obscure Marine before the assassination? So he should have, and if you read his Warren Commission testimony, it's so much longer and in great detail. He's the one that came up with all the stuff about, they called him Private Oswaldovich and all this. Now, nobody else saw that. Other Marines said he was really.
It's almost like Tom McVeigh, right? With Keating, the mayor, the governor of Oklahoma.
Keating's brother, yeah.
Tom McVeigh was the terrorist bomber of a federal building in his novel, The Final Jihad, which was in 1991, the transcript, I believe.
Yeah, you're right. And so we have a lot more about Oklahoma City in there, thanks to Chris. And I've been the Petonia Yiki, the widow who I tried to get a hold of, but Chris got me so many phone numbers and contact, and none of these people ever answered.
Well, McVeigh's father, he wasn't receptive to me or you.
No, and I understood that. I'm amazed that we got through to him.
But we're trying to clear his son's name.
Well, that's what's in all that's why I don't know if they get to these people or whatever. They don't want to hear about it, and they get upset if you claim there's a conspiracy, or maybe that their son wasn't as bad as he's depicted. I mean, if it was me, I would want to clear his name. But these people have. But anyhow, so
Don, can I ask
Tanya
you?
Yiki, out of nowhere.
Right, Tanya Yiki, she's making the rounds on all kinds of podcasts from the last time I checked. So I don't know where she stands with that. But with the JFK Jr. thing, I was able to get the contact information for a guy named Ed Schlossberg. He plays a role in JFK Jr.'s situation with his plane crash. I know you froze up. For anyone out there, Ed Schlossberg, I think I'm pronouncing it right, was Caroline Kennedy's husband. And apparently he had more of a role behind the scenes than most people know. I won't go further than that because a lot of that stuff that we found is in Hidden History 3. And there was another guy I was able to get in contact with. I was able to connect Don with. That's in the footage for the assassination of John F. Kennedy Jr., that film by John Hankey, the news footage. And in that news footage, there's a woman named Susan Warnick. She was an anchor person for WCVB Channel 5 in Boston. She did an interview with a guy named Todd Bergen. Todd Bergen was the Coast Guard spokesperson for Boston. And Todd Bergen, in that footage that was actually captured by, if anyone's familiar with the late great Alex Jones, ripped him off. I'm trying to remember. my mind is not what it should be right now, but William Cooper was able to get the footage out of the WCVB archives in New Hampshire. And that's why that footage exists, where it confirmed that JFK Jr. was radioing the tower at Martha's Vineyard Airport. waiting for landing instructions and was not a daredevil like the mainstream media made it out to be. He was not a murder-suicide, which apparently is now a thing, like with some podcasts in 2024. He was waiting landing instructions to drop off his sister-in-law, Lauren Bissett, I believe her name was. And I don't even know if Don's still there or not. But this Todd Bergen character, he wasn't very nice to Don, but he disappeared pretty much in the fall of 1999. He ended up working for a couple of colleges in Boston. If it wasn't for people like Don and myself and other researchers throughout the years, this Todd Bergen character got attributed to the Q phenomenon. Some people think that Todd Bergen is actually Q, just like some people think that JFK Jr. is Q with Trump. I never bought into the Q bullshit. The 4chan or whatever. Like, how are you getting like these drops from a secret military tribunal?
Yeah.
Anyway, I kept rambling. Sorry, Don. I just went into the Todd Bergen of it all, and that we found a bunch of articles from like Newsmax. Newsmax had made the claim that Ed Schlossberg was making phone calls out of Boston, and he wasn't too nice to JFK Jr.'s sister-in-law's parents and his wife's parents. And we actually found evidence that JFK Jr. and his wife had burial plots pretty close to JFK and Jackie Kennedy. And actually that they had bought, I think via the New York Post, we found out that they were expecting to start a family together. And some researchers over the years thought that Carolyn, JFK Jr.'s wife, may have been pregnant. Not unlike the Princess Diana thing when she got killed 2 years prior to that. I don't even know if I'm on right now with people, but when I was finding this stuff and sending it to Don, I would send it to Peter too. I wanted to back it up as much as I could. I wanted people to be able to see things that were either forgotten or never, seen by the majority of the public to begin with. So right now, the idea that this show has been so scrambled right now is really disheartening. It couldn't come at a worse time. For me personally, in the last couple of weeks has been like the worst of my life. So if anything, please folks, please support Don's book. It's not called Hidden History 3. And right now, the subtitle that Skyhorse wanted to have for it, I think it's down the American Memory Hole, I believe. I should know that. Please order it. There's a lot of research that went into it. Peter Seakosh did a lot of work for it. Don did a lot of work for it too.
Can you hear me now? Can people hear me now?
I can hear you. I was just saying that they should support your work and Peter's work, because a lot of work went into this book.
Oh, I appreciate that. And guys, I don't know what's going on. Something, I don't know if this is some kind of a cyber attack or whatever. But this is ridiculous because Peter, I guess we still can't hear him because it's not just me. They were messing with Chris. They're messing with Peter.
Well, I was on the phone with Peter. I mean, Peter, we can't hear him, but Peter, are you able to go on the screen real quick, or
can you hear us, Peter? No, Peter's still okay. Okay, they can save me now. So again, I have no idea, guys. I just
Peter found the most juicy stuff for you, and he was the editor on the book, and
yes, he did. He edited the manuscripts as well. But
he
you guys,
actually did the artwork for you on Borrowed Fame
yes,
prior to this.
yes,
So.
Peter's, and I keep trying to tell you and Peter both, you need to work on that John Lennon book. You guys, you guys are wonderful to help me so much, but do something where maybe you can enjoy the the wonderful world of pennies on the dollar book royalties that we get. But you should have your own names on a book, because you've done research into that. You know a lot about it. I think it's a book out there waiting to write. Or in your case, you have Columbine. That's something, you put a book out about it. Nobody's told the truth about it. And
well, I'm hoping most of the stuff that I found on Columbine will come out with Hidden History 4 or whatever the title might be. I'd rather it go through a reputable source like yourself than a schmuck like me.
no, you're a reputable source too. You're as reputable as I am. But I certainly appreciate everything you guys do.
Can I ask you one thing while we still have the feed?
Yeah, well, we still have, yeah, sure.
The Joe Kennedy Jr. thing you kind of cut up on. Did you get any kind of feedback? Was Skyhorse or anybody on what we found on?
No, Sky. The amazing thing about Skyhorse is that's why, again, they're like all publishers. They don't give you hardly anything. The royalties are terrible, but that's just standard. Writers get almost nothing. But they publish my work, and they've never told me one time at all the controversial. They never said, "Hey, you got to take this out."
Right.
They never question the material ever, which it kind of amazes me. And when I first wrote about Lincoln and FDR and question the the Allied atrocities of World War II and stuff, they've never questioned anything. So I have to give them credit for that. There's a reason why the people that can't go to other publishers go to Skyhorse, because it is a division of Simon and Schuster now, amazingly enough. Although they did take away my Simon and Schuster page, though. I always used to joke that. Yeah, well, they took away everybody's, and I think they were embarrassed of the Skyhorse authors. So he used to have a Donald Jeffries Simon Schuster page with all my Skyhorse titles. They took them away from us, because I remember David Wayne, who used to write with Richard Belzer, asked me about it. What happened? Because he thought it was so cool, and I said, I don't know. I asked them about it, and the gist of what I put two and two together, and they probably said, hey, Kay, these guys, come on, these are conspiracy books and crazy stuff. Simon and Schuster doesn't want to be associated with it, I guess. But it's one less marketing tool I had, because I used to always, when I was trying to contact somebody I wanted to impress, I would include the link to my Simon and Schuster page.
Right.
And now I don't have the Simon and Schuster page, so hopefully, maybe I'll get it back someday. But no, they've never. And the Joe Jr. stuff, like I said, I was when you were off there. I think it was an assassination, but there's lots missing there. All we know is that it was in a.
Do you personally, and maybe this is giving it up, and if it is, don't answer, but did you buy into that article, the German article, I think it was, where they said he was a POW that got shot trying to escape?
No, I don't. But Roosevelt's son, certainly, Elliot. And again, Peter found some great stuff about him. You'll find that he was a questionable character too later, and he just happened to be
Elliot.
Yeah, Elliot Roosevelt. Basically, the information on the Joe Jr. crash basically comes from him. He was the closest eyewitness, and so you got to take that with a grain of.
Right. I hope you're still there. Yeah. Elliot Roosevelt. He wrote some books, I believe, after the fact. He was trailing Joe Jr.'s plane. I think it was Operation Aphrodite. It was like one of the first drone missions, and the plane ended up exploding prematurely before he could parachute out of it. Dawn, are you still there? Peter, anybody? I don't even know if this is still going out live. Anyway, I believe there's 5 minutes left. I swear, for anyone that really is really interested, I'm going to make it a point this weekend possibly with the two guys here, with Don and Peter, to do a StreamYard thing. I'm going to try to do an episode to make up for all the technical gaps or whatever. When it comes to this book, because there's a lot of stuff that I wasn't even privy to, courtesy of Don and Peter, when it comes to stuff pre JFK, even. I kind of tend to focus on the more modern corruption, like Oklahoma City and 9/11, JFK Jr., Columbine. I go back to Kurt Cobain, even, but that won't be touched upon on this book. Yeah, so just try to support, if you like what you're seeing and reading, Don has a Substack. I think he just did a recent article on things that weren't covered in the book, Hidden History 3.
I'm back. Can you hear me now?
Yes, yeah, absolutely.
All right, so we only have a little time. So of course
I was just telling him about your Substack, and you recently did an article on material that wasn't able to be put in the latest book.
Yes, yes, that's it. And you're right. Geesebusters. Too bad the show was hacked. Good to see Robin Lee here. Yeah, I don't know what happened today, folks, but maybe you got a little bit of idea. This is what I mean. I hope this isn't going to be a thing now where they're going to just mess with me trying to podcast, but it wouldn't surprise me because that's what they do to me on social media.
Would you be willing to come on a show with myself and Peter this weekend? Are you available?
Sure, depending what time it is. Sure.
Yeah, we'll work around it. I mean, Peter's 3 hours behind us anyway. He's a California guy.
Sure.
The reason I brought that up, I actually drove. I don't know if people actually got, because I kept talking even after everyone froze up.
Yeah,
I had mentioned that there's a lot of deep dive stuff, not spoiler material, but there's a lot of stuff we could get into with the three of us, in a longer format. And on, like I said, I just knew my StreamYard thing. So you have a latest, not to take over your show, but your latest article actually is not the article on the material that wasn't able to get into Hidden History 3. But it had a different title. I believe it was the Olympics of the new title for your Substack. The new
is America 2.0. Yeah, America 2.0 goes to the Satanic Olympics. Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. Would you be able to tell? I don't want to take over your show, but would you be able to tell everyone basically what to look for with that article? Because
it's just well, there's just so much to work with there. You got Snoop Dogg and Flavor Flav, and you
Flavor Flav is a part of this now.
Yeah, you got Flavor Flav. You got the new diverse gymnastics team. You got obviously the mock-up of the Last Supper by the drag queen, and the threat to sue people who criticized that by the main drag queen that played Jesus. Really? Lots of crazy stuff. The boxer that they claim is an intersex or something that sure looks like a man to me that destroyed the Italian female fighter in the ring, and there's so much there to be proud of, and so it's I tried to have some fun with it. And anybody that wants to, if you're not subscribed to me in Substack, please. And White Wolf says, I always you send an intro so you get notified about the show. I'm not sure what White Wolf's talking about. You should get an intro about Substack. Now, Substack is the only place that it's Donald Jeffries at Substack.com. It's called I Protest Like This Show. And it's the only place that that I'm not shadow banned. At least I don't think, but I'm getting indications from people. There are people that tell me that when they get a notification from my show, it goes to spam or they don't get it anymore. So who knows? Maybe they'll start doing that too. I hope not.
Don, do you have any interviews like with Sam Tripoli lined up for Hidden History 3?
Oh, Sam Trip. Yeah, Sam Trip. I got to ask him when he wants to skate. He definitely wants to have me on. So we're later in August when it's closer to the publication date, we're definitely going to have that. And I'm going to be on, quite frankly, I'll be on Coast to Coast probably in September for that. So yeah, we'll be hitting it hard doing it. But people today, you may have. I'm not saying I'm paranoid, but I don't know that this was some kind of an attack. They're messing with me or something. But I'm probably exaggerating my importance. But this was very strange today. What was going on? The fact that it attacked all three of us, and
very disheartening. Yeah.
Yes. So so I hope this isn't going to be something where that happens all the time. So it's hard to do a podcast when this happens. So I apologize to everyone for this. I had nothing to do with it, I don't think. So, and I appreciate everyone for staying in there and hanging in there. And Peter, again, I'm sorry that I don't know what he's down for the count. So Peter Seakosh, check his artwork, follow him on, I think he's on Twitter and Facebook.
No. He's only on Facebook.
He's on Facebook. Yeah, check him out on Facebook. And great research and very helpful. And Chris Graves, obviously, too. Anything you want to promote or close with?
Yeah, Don Jeffries Substack, and check him out on any interviews coming up. Like, quite frankly, that's a good show. It's been a while since you've been on there, I think.
Yeah.
Or hopefully tinfoil hat, you're back on that. And Peter Seakosh, you can support him with his artwork on Facebook. Peter Seakosh art. I wish I had the actual website in front of me, but yeah, just take care of my friends, and it was great to be here. And
I appreciate it. It looked like it's great. It looked like it was going to cut me off again. So again, I apologize to everyone. This was
not your fault, Don.
Yeah, it was an interesting show, to say the least, but I appreciate everybody for hanging in there. Lots of you did. Appreciate everyone in the chat and everything, and thanks so much for your support. Thanks again, Chris. Appreciate you. Peter, appreciate you. Sorry you're not there. Again, subscribe to me on Substack if you can. Hopefully we'll be able to do America Unplugged tomorrow, and hopefully we'll be able to do I Protest next week, find out what's going on. Again, thanks everybody for tuning in to I Protest. We'll talk to you hopefully next week at the same time. Take care. Thanks. Okay.